Welcome to Thrifty Tuesday. This week's topic is clothes. Did you know it takes more than 650 gallons of water to produce the cotton that creates one t-shirt? On average, one American uses about 17 gallons of water per shower. That means it takes about 38 showers worth of good water to produce one t-shirt. Due to fast fashion, the average person buys about 68 pieces of new clothing and throws away 80 pounds of clothes per year. A study found that the manufacturing of textiles accounts for 1.2 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions annually, which is higher than all international flights and maritime shipping trips combined. Clothes that are thrown away ends up in landfills or gets burned. Even the clothes that are donated gets thrown away if they aren't sold within a certain period of time. So, how can we sustainably shop for clothes? One thing you can do is wear the clothes you buy longer. By wearing your clothes 9 months longer, you can reduce your carbon footprint for that garment by 30%. You can also try thrift shopping. By buying clothes from thrift stores and secondhand, you can help prevent them from being thrown away and ending up in landfills. Plus, you help save the water, energy, and other resources that would have been used to create a new piece of clothing. Some amazing thrift stores include Goodwill, ThredUp, 4 Days, and Poshmark. So, next time you want to buy a new pair of jeans, check out your local thrift store and see what they have in store.
Hey there, folks. My name's Jacob. I'm the ASI Programming Director for Cal State University, Fullerton. And today we have another edition of Titan Talks Animation Edition. We'll be introducing our fellow panelists, Mel McGowan, Rich Hurry, and Johnny Davis. Let's welcome everyone to the panel. Hey, folks, thanks so much for joining us today. Before we get started, I'll go ahead and we'll do just a simple introduction about ourselves and who we are. So I'll start with myself again. My name is Jacob Fry. I'm the ASI Program Director for Associated Students Incorporated, and I'm the moderator for today.
All right, great.
Awesome. Hey, guys, I'm Mel McGowan. I'm one of the founders and the Chief Creative Officer here at Storyland Studios.
I'm Johnny Davis, a Senior Creative Director for Storyland Studios.
Rich Hurry, president of Kite String Studios, which is a sister company of the Storyland family of companies. We're sort of the
constellation of stars.
That's right. That's right. And that's it. There you go.
Awesome. Thanks so much, y'all, for being here with us tonight. Before we get started into the nitty-gritty of animation and all that fun stuff, let's talk a little bit about some of our maybe favorite animated films or pieces that we have. We'll go ahead and go counterclockwise, I think. So we'll go with Rich, Mel, and then, or is that the other way around? Or is that Johnny, Mel, and then Rich?
It all depends on which way you're looking at the clock, man.
That's a great question. Well, who wants to go first? Johnny
I'll go. I was the last.
Rich. All right, let's go.
So favorite, it's kind of a big topic. It's like saying what your favorite food is. It's like it really depends on what you're talking about. I'll say that the first thing that got me excited about animation was Robotech in the 80s when I was in middle school and I came home and I saw Japanese anime for the first time, and I didn't know that was even what it was. But I was just blown away with the realism and the storytelling and everything else about that. Modern times, there's a lot of animation stuff that I find, really, really great. I think The Incredibles is probably my favorite of the animated ones, but I also love Kung Fu Panda. I could watch that every day. Wreck-It Ralph, the first one, super great. So it's really hard to pin a favorite one, but that gives you a little bit of a yin and yang there.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're waffling, Rich, because that's definitely a tough one.
How do you do it?
I do remember I was working in a high adventure camp in the Alps one summer, washing dishes, doing whatever I needed to do to go rappelling and kayaking. But we had a day off from KP, and I snuck away to the little town cinema and stumbled into Sleeping Beauty. And I was embarrassed to be there as a teenage kid, but then I saw the Army GIs, all the soldiers in there that were kind of killing time. But I was just struck by the production design. Ivan Earl, probably not the best Disney animated movie, but just even today, I think I just happened to come across some Ivan Earl renderings that we're drawing some inspiration from for a project. So just that wonderful blend of kind of mid-century graphic design, production design has always stuck with me. Modern times, yeah, Incredibles, probably one of my favorite Pixar. I'm kind of old school. I still love the hand-drawn aspect of 2D animation. No offense, Rich, but
none taken.
Yeah, Ian Flux. I mean, just the handiwork
Ian
of
Flux. Wow, you're really digging in.
MTV, bro. I'm Gen X all the way.
Wow. That's a tough question, as Rich had mentioned, because of I have to almost break it down into categories. So old school animation, when I was a really young boy, I loved Disney's Robin Hood. I loved it was brief and concise. The movements and is just a flow about it that's really, really pleasant. And I didn't understand that as a kid, but after studying it since, studying animation, it's one of those movies that has always stuck me. In modern times, or I don't know, maybe it's a couple years old now, but Iron Giant is fantastic. The heart in that film, the art in the film, the design of the film, the message of the film is all excellent. It's got great pacing. I also, to go into TV, Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, not the computer animated stuff, but in 2005, 2004, I think, episode 13, it's the episode with Mace Windu. There is zero dialogue, and it is an unbelievably well-paced piece of animation that's just gorgeous, and I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your very in-depth answers to our question.
This felt like a final exam already.
Yeah, we passed.
Thanks, folks. So kind of going into that, could you break down to our audience a little bit about the animation field and what you do in it? Animation and a lot of aspects is in my perspective isn't as well known. So if you could explain to our public kind of what it is you do and every day. Yeah.
If I could just tee it up just to broaden the horizon a little bit.
Yes, please.
We consider what we do three-dimensional storytelling, and we've actually set up our studio in a couple of different kind of interdisciplinary groupings. We've got a strategic storytelling studio that does story and brand and identity development. Johnny and I focus a lot on our spatial storytelling studio, where we're creating interactive, immersive environments and experience, which certainly incorporate animated bits and augmented reality features. And then we also have a digital interactive practice that really Rich is the glorious face of that place. Which is what I think a lot of people think of traditionally in terms of animation, particularly feature animation. So just to say that, whether it's visualizing environments, whether it's adding the special sauce to your favorite white knuckle e-ticket, holy roller coaster rides, it's a broader field, I think, than some assume.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Agreed.
Yeah. For my part, as senior creative director, I get the awesome job of being able to kind of cast vision along with Mel and write some of the stories and fill in the details. A lot of times clients will come to us and they'll have an idea of the story they want to tell. They have no idea how to get from point A to point B. So utilizing character design, background design, layout, I get to put my finger in all the pies, and character design, vehicle design, and it just really getting into saying, okay, how is this world gonna roll out? What does it look and feel like? And we follow the character, plot, and setting of every design to make sure that all of those different disciplines are hit. So yeah.
And I probably have the most traditional hat to wear in this particular panel. But so let's see where to start. So I've been in visual effects and animation in some degree for like 25 years now. And I got my start when I went to school, and then they told me I couldn't be in the film program, and I got mad and I left and started my own company. Doing visual effects and animated content back in the 90s in Orlando, which over time, that sort of what I wanted out of the storytelling world, the animation world. And for me, it was movies more than animation to start. And, I was a big fan of Star Wars, and I wanted to be involved in visual effects. I wanted to be a director. And I realized that really wasn't my gift. And I think that's something important for students it's like, you may love something and you may want to do something in this field that you're in love with, and be open-minded enough to change where you fit into it when you find where your skills and your strengths lie. Right. And that's definitely what I did. And I realized that I really wanted to be a rigging TD. Now, at the time, I didn't know what that was, but what that means is that I prepare characters for animation. So building the complex kind of structure underneath the hood so that an animator can take a digital character and animate it. And really, it's a digital asset, because it could be a plane, it could be a car, it can be a character. It really doesn't matter. What my skill set is taking a complex system and then creating a simple interface for somebody else to make that system act or come to life. I spent 14 years at Pixar as a rigging TD, building characters for feature films. And then when I left Pixar, that's when I chatted with Mel and Peter and the guys and said, I really want to teach people about how to think about this process differently, and which rolls right in line with the Storyland vision of being storytellers and kind of raising the next generation of storytellers. So my animation background is kind of woven into Kitestring, which it started as an education platform to teach people how to think differently, with the goal of teaching storytelling. And that over the last couple of years has transformed into, we're going to create our own stories, and we're going to teach people by giving them access to the process in real time, so that people can watch us tell stories, work together to develop these properties and bring them to market. So it's kind of taking my experience in the world and bringing people together, so that we can give students a view into the process that they normally don't get to see. Along with that, we're creating our own software to create characters and articulated systems in a new way. And that's also going to be available to our students as well as the market. So it's a little longer, but give you a little idea of what I'm about.
Thank you so much for sharing. And it sounds like Storyland is turning into like an open sandbox and transparent format of creating themed entertainment for the future. So I'm really excited to see a more transparent way of working in the entertainment industry and how it functions, because it can sometimes be convoluted and a little difficult to figure out how to jump into that industry and learn how it operates before you get there. So thank you so much for sharing with us. But and to go kind of further into our past and what we've worked on, could we also share a little bit about a project in our portfolio or reel that we've been most proud of working on? And with that being said, was there anything that you believe you could have improved on with that project? And I'll swing it over to Johnny to start us off.
Well, that's a really hard question. I would say it's a little project that Mel and I got to work on together called Legends of Lightfall. It was a world that we got to build for a short-run comic series, a 6-issue run that the owner is actually looking into shopping into doing either a feature film or an animated show with, and we got to build the entire IP. So it was one of those experiences that is once in a lifetime, where we got to sit for about 2 weeks in a room with our crew and just kind of develop all the characters, all of the stories. Okay, what is the overarching story arc for all 6 issues? What are the what happens in each issue? Laying all that stuff out, then doing all the character and vehicle design and background design. And it was a dream come true.
Yeah, for me, it's one that I wish we're just like maybe a few days short of being able to announce it. There's a very special project that is I'm trying to pick my words wisely without blowing the press release event where we're having access to literary properties, public domain IPs, basically the stories that have stood the test of time around the world, and the idea of going back in and finding the roots of stories that maybe Disney has Disneyfied or others have put out, but really digging into the original source material, whether it's from Europe, whether it's from Ethiopia, whether it's from the Western frontier of Northern America, and actually really digging into that original, whether it's a print block, art style, whether it's original hand-drawn illustration, whether it's original medieval illuminated manuscripts, really being inspired by kind of these creatives from throughout the centuries and bringing that to life in current technology. So that's a lot of fun. I think whether it's that project, the ones that I wish we could have done differently. When I think of a lot of the clunky visualization tools and techniques we've used over the years, I look back, some of those are kind of cringeworthy because we're, so focused on getting them technically accurate for, the presentation of the physical placemaking, but you lose you lose the heart and the story and the emotional content and the people. That's my biggest pet peeve, is when you have what I call plastic people walking around these these animations, because all the effort is into this rich placemaking and production design. So I'd rather just not have it anyways.
Well, this is a complicated one. I've done a lot of stuff, and there's been different phases in my career when it comes to animated content. When I was getting started, I look at all of that and I go, oh my gosh, is it terrible? Like, so much bad work. I got started in the 90s. You didn't have to be any good to get a job. You just had to know how to turn on the software, and boy, was it bad. But, I stuck with it and got going. And then I would say it's hard. I've worked on so many interesting things, which is a blessing. The last show I worked on at Pixar was The Incredibles 2. And I rigged Dash. And that was probably my most challenging character to date. And so that was both awesome to see done, but also a really challenging project at the time. And I would definitely have approached it differently if I had to start it over. But it was that balance of trying to respect existing material that people felt that there was an emotional connection to, trying to raise the bar and make it better, and also going back to original artwork and looking at what they wanted to do originally but couldn't in the original movie. So there was this triangle of competing forces, and on a deadline with everything else. It was hard. So I would say it's probably my favorite character out of the bunch that I worked on. Was the last character I worked on there. It was also one of my more difficult projects. I know I would have attacked the problem differently if I had to do it over again.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And to kind of bounce off of that, and we'll go Mel, Rich, and Johnny for this one. Do you feel that pressure when you're working with very popular IPs, whether it would be with Disney or Universal's or Warner? Is that pressure sometimes intimidating when you're working on an IP or an intellectual property that is really coveted by a lot of people? Like you said, Rich, people love Dash, and he's a he's an important character that people cherish. And so what is it like working with that pressure of an IP that's very traditional and cherished in its audience, and then being able to also be imaginative and new without disrespecting the tradition of that art?
It's funny because I feel like we've been given these opportunities to walk that razor's edge of when you talk about precious IPs. we've dealt with stuff that is so politically, culturally, socially divisive in terms of sacred scriptures, in terms of political ideas, in terms of just, well beloved. I mean, I think whether it's stuff that just is special to us, to be honest with you, I have a sense of fear and trepidation about Lego. The work we work with the Lego. I mean, just because that was so influential in my young mind in terms of what that meant to me, and so I think there's a healthiness to that approach of humbly approaching something and recognizing that it really should come along with some humility and prayer in terms of getting that right and digging into the spirit, even if you think it's something or means something personally, to really understand what that means to its creators and to the context that it's being viewed in.
And I do think that it depends on where you are in your journey too. I mean, you think about where the three of us are. We've been at this for a long time, so the basics and being confident about the basics is not an issue. It's how do I approach the property, right? How do I approach this character? How do I approach this whatever? And so I think it depends on where you are in your journey. It depends on the stress level, I think, when it comes to those things. But what I've learned is always look at your client and what they love about their character. Yeah. Right? Like what is it meaningful to them? What's important to them? Then work from there. Because sometimes, making a character better isn't what they want. What they want is for you to bring it to life in the same way they've always done. Or they want you to bring it to life in that way, but with a slight modification. And so it's reading the room, understanding the target, and working through that lens. You got to be careful not to put your own sensibilities in when you're working with somebody else's coveted property. Yeah.
I would say also it's really important to do your research. Make sure you understand that IP inside and out, backwards and forward. It's easier with some of the bigger IPs because if they're beloved. We did some stuff with Marvel just after they were acquired with Disney, and that was a challenge because we had to get 2 levels of approvals. First, it went to Marvel. They had to approve it. Then they kicked it up to Disney. They had to approve it. And then they had to come back to us with 2 sets of changes. And that always is a challenge. It's a fun challenge. But if you do your research first and really understand the subject matter, you can avoid a lot of issues. But Rich is right. You can't bring your own mantle into that process. You have to make sure that you kind of shed all of that. So that research has to be done to be a generalist, not a specialist. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. And now, as we're talking about IPs and the sacredness of them, is there a project or a dream IP that y'all have wanted to work on and just haven't had the chance to yet, but would want to in the future?
Well, I've already said that. Yeah. I need to work on a Robotech movie somehow. I don't know if that's ever going to happen because of the rights that Harmony Gold destroyed in the 80s and all the people they messed with. But that's what I would personally. That's what I would love to work on. That, and equally, we have stories and characters that we're designing that I'm very excited about, and bringing those to life in a way that's meaningful is something I want to do. So I would say the Robotech, I need to do a Veritech with Rick Hunter in it. And then I need to we are going to create characters that I believe will have a meaningful impact. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, I check off the list, the ones that we've gotten to play in the sandbox: Star Wars, Harry Potter, Marvel. It's definitely it's fun to not know what's going to come in the door. But for me, just, I've got, again, back to those childhood memories. I had one particular mentor teacher that spent a year of lunch breaks reading the Chronicles of Narnia to us. And someday, actually one of our artists did get to work on that and work on the proposed Narnia land proposal. Did you do?
I worked on the movie. I worked at Rhythm News.
Awesome,
I worked on the
yeah.
Chronicles of Narnia, the first movie.
That's awesome. Well, one of these days we want to bring that to life in 3 dimensions, with all 5 senses. So someday.
Let's do it.
So for me, hard sci-fi fan, I would love to work on a Firefly project. Joss Whedon's Firefly from 2003. Huge
I'm
fan.
a brown coat.
Oh yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
As well. And whether it would be animated or an attraction or even a live action feature film, do some storyboarding or something, I just that would be a dream for me.
I have the Serenity model.
Nice.
I can't tell you where I got it from, but I have it.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Awesome. We'll do one more question and then we'll kick it to a 5-minute break. And then we'll gear that second portion more towards our students. So we'll ask some questions, we'll answer some questions from the chat. And we'll also gear that section towards jumping into the entertainment field, specifically animation, and some advice on how to get there. But before we do that, we'll talk about what has been an inspiring piece of animation or entertainment that has really pushed you or guided you to the role that you are in now.
That's a good one. I would say for me, I want to say it was 1982. I was much younger.
2000.
Yeah, I'm just used to saying 2000. I got a book, The Art of Return of the Jedi, with original Ralph McQuarrie and Joe Johnston sketches in it. And when I received that book, I was like, I want to draw spaceships. That's me. And ever since then, I refocused myself, and I never stopped drawing. Since that moment, and really inspired me to become an illustrator and study animation and do what I do.
No, that's a hard one for me to know if there's any one piece of anything. I think it comes in phases. Robotech early as a kid, Star Wars certainly, and then I wanted to get into movies so badly. So like The Matrix hit, right? And that was an inspiration for me, like wanting to go. And I actually worked on the Matrix sequels. That was my first feature film job. So I can't, it goes in moments. There's things that I see that get me excited. Like right now, I'm incredibly excited about interactive and bringing feature film quality characters and effects into the real-time environment. So I think it comes in phases for me. So anyway, that's me.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's good.
There was a massive old volume. I thought it was still available. It was a Christopher Finch Art of Animation. I mean, just a massive tome. And I know one of our friends, Tom Morris, is working on the Imagineering version, the Alchemy of Imagineering. But I still remember combing through that as a kid and really to span from really Walt Disney's career from essentially being a graffiti artist in World War I, writing on helmets and Jeeps, to having renderings in their future cities and the experimental and prototype community of tomorrow. That just was mind-blowing to understand a different definition of what animation really even meant, the idea of animating a world that could and should be, as opposed to starting with some pretty scrappy stick figure drawings that Walt Disney personally was not necessarily the greatest hand draftsman. But in terms of film, that by far the most influential work for me was Blade Runner. What Ridley Scott, again, with background as an architect and a commercial director, to the world building embedded in that, the visual, the graphic design, the detail, the music. I mean, I just think he kind of demolished that whole clean techie Star Trek future with one fell swoop, but in good, bad, and ugly ways. But definitely an influence. That layering of ancient and future is something that's definitely influenced a lot of my work.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, folks, for sharing. So far, we'll be right back after this 5-minute break. So stay tuned and make sure, audience, to think of some questions so that we can answer them in our second portion. So we will be back in 5 minutes. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, folks, welcome back. This is going to be our second portion of our Titan Talks. We'll be going over how to get started in the entertainment industry, specifically with animation. And we'll learn more about our career path from our panelists and asking questions from the chat. So let's get started with our third portion. Alrighty. And I think Mel will be here in a second. So wait for him. But when he gets back, we'll get started. Let me just get this fixed. There we go. Hey, Mel.
Hey.
Alrighty. So we're going to get started with our second portion of our stream. So again, we'll be going over specifically career focused questions and comments from the chat, as well as more about our industry and how to get involved. So first off, we'll start off by starting off this second portion of our segment by talking about what position or positions do you believe has most prepared you for the roles that you have now? And we'll go with Johnny, Rich, and then Mel, and then go that way.
Yeah, that's a really good question. In this industry, I think that it's bricklaying. So every position that you have, you learn something new and you build on top of it. So starting out as an intern, I interned at Sony Interactive and Psygnosis Studios and video games, doing background design and stuff like that. And everything I learned there built on top of that to become a concept designer and then lead concept designer. So really, it's hard to say. But I guess it's that first job. It's that very first job that gets your foot in the door. And you can't waste it. You have to kill it at that job, and there's no substitute for hard work. There just isn't, because any natural talent that you may have will only be accentuated by the hard work that you put in and put on top of it.
I got to go along that same theme. That my first $2 an hour child abuse, child labor job, walking around in the snow in Germany, doing leaflets and washing cars with cold water. And I mean, all those crappy jobs that make you appreciate whatever stress and deadlines and, verbal abuse you're ever under. I mean, to me, that's all required part of putting in the dues, that you just don't get when you get out of art school and you get some sweet gig and you're entitled. But
yeah, well, I mean, it's an interesting one. There's a lot of philosophy in this question and answer. So hard work is paramount. You have to be willing to work hard. No job is beneath you. Always, as you work your way up, you treat everyone as an equal, above or below. Respect obviously is important. But it is any job. This is not animation. This is any job. You're working with people. So your people skills are incredibly important. How you treat people, how you respond to people that are difficult, how you help people around you, how you share your information, how you share knowledge, like give to others and it will come back to you, maybe not directly, but throughout. So I mean, hard work, remember that you're part of a world of people and treat people right as you're working your way up. That's more than 50% of the job. So I would say that, my getting where I wanted to be was being honest and going after things and being hungry for it and listening to people and working with people and sharing and kind of leapfrogging to get to where I wanted to be.
Yeah, the idea that you deserve either authority or respect because of either a position, because of how talented you think you are or what you have to offer. There's limitations to the effectiveness.
Well, you're entitled to nothing. And welcome to the real world, students. You're entitled to nothing. No matter how much money you spent on your degree, no matter how many hours and years you spent in school, when you go to the job, it's you and your talent that is on display. Nobody cares how much sleep you have had or not had. So just know that come in with humility and a hunger to work. And
from a perspective of a kind of an executive, a leader, that is such a precious commodity, that combination of talent and humility. And along with that comes a EQ, basically emotional intelligence, but that is just golden. I mean, because there are people that have the talent, there's people that have the work ethic or the humility, but is that magic combo.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
amazing.
this leads in. I don't know if you have another question, but there's many things to share here. Like this is another thing too. You know, I really wanted to. I mean, Pixar was my goal, right? That was. I didn't realize at the time, but that when I found out where I wanted to work, I went after it, right? But my getting hired there wasn't just because I was talented. Actually, I wasn't the most talented person in the interview. Like when a good buddy of mine, Mark Peretti, and I didn't know him at the time, but we went in there and he actually got my job. And but it was a panel of 10 people. It was 10 hours of interviews, and at the end of it, if any one person would have said that I didn't fit, it wasn't my talent at that point. It was, did I fit? Did I fit the culture? Was I going to be a good person that fit into this team to work to build something out? And Mark actually got the job. And the recruiter, when she called me, told me, "Hey, by the way, you didn't get the job." And I was like deflated. But she goes, "But everybody liked you so much that we opened up a new position for you,
Nice.
to come in and work on this." So, you know, that humility, how you fit and work with others, was a big part of why I got that job. It was not so much my talent. That was already dealt with. It's like, yeah. So be aware that matters a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely. I found even as a college student, relationship building is at the heart of the entertainment industry. It's one part skill, but it's another part just being able to build those relationships with people, because it's the road to working in entertainment is very soft. So relationships are and relationship building is kind of your tether into the entertainment industry for the most part.
Who you know is a real thing.
Yeah, exactly. Very much so.
Well, that's not just
especially
the
in
industry.
entertainment.
That's life.
That's life.
Yeah.
It's like it is who you know. Yeah.
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 I would also say along those lines, you guys are all right. I mean, the point of being easy to work with is powerful, but I think almost equally as powerful is your passion. Whatever it is you're passionate about, whatever you nerd out for, let that shine. Let that be something that you champion, because that's infectious and people will get excited with you when you're excited for something. And if you can let that show in your work, whether it's your reel or if you are a story artist going for, a more traditional portfolio, let some of that in. Let some of that bleed into your work, and that passion will show through. And then when you get to talk about it, it shows through your face and in those interactions, and it makes you likable.
In conjunction to that, and this is very important, especially with people who like want to work at ILM or want to work at like Sony Interactive or whatever their dream job is. Remember that it's a job. Remember that it is a business. And if your demo reel, if your portfolio, if you can't do the work that they're doing, then you realize it's a business. You have to be able to contribute to the business. So where you enter in, right, as an intern, you're expected to learn and give, and it's mostly passion and with very little, experience, right? But you want to come in and get a job, getting paid good money to do something. You have to be able to sit down and do the work to generate revenue for the company you want to work for. So make sure that with passion, which is important, you also have the skill and you have people surrounding you, giving you honest critiques about where you are. So you walk in with the right kind of confidence, not cockiness, but confidence to say, I can.
Line.
Right. Like, that was a big part of the way I always like to interview, which is like, I know I can do this work and I know that I'm going to learn from you. And I hope that I can teach you some things. I've got more to offer than just taking your knowledge, but also giving you some of my own. And so, yeah, it's a balance, but just I've seen too many demo reels of people that clearly didn't look at their own reel or didn't have people being honest with them, saying they wanted a job somewhere. And you go, look at the work we're doing and look at your reel. Like these two things are not lined up. So passion is important, but talent is also important. And if you're not there yet, figure it out. Find out what you need to work on. Get people, surround yourself with honest people that will give you the right kind of feedback and help build you up so you can get to the point of working where you want to work, doing the kind of work you want to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. We're going to pivot a little bit to a question from the audience. Laura asks us, when you entered the workforce, what was one of the most challenging things you had to overcome as a young animator?
Well, I was an animator, so I never animated.
Or just like, and in this case,
Mel's gonna laugh at me.
We'll
I'm always.
throw
Are
it
you an
in.
animator?
Yeah.
No, I'm not an animator.
We'll throw it to just your career in general.
For I don't know. There's many challenges. I mean, for me was I wasn't good enough. I got started and I wasn't good enough, and I had to work really hard. And because I'd left school, I didn't have a lot of foundational pieces that would have really helped me get where I wanted to be faster. So I had to work extra hard to be good at what I was doing. So for me, it was just being good enough.
Yeah, I would say along with that is the workflow. You know, how the particular production pipeline works, and what your part in it is, and learning more than your part. So you understand what comes before, and you kind of understand where your work is going when you're done with it, because that helps you take that next step. But you want to really understand that pipeline, understand your timelines, understand your deadlines. I'm constantly giving Mel heart attacks with cutting skinny timelines close.
3:47 a.m. for a 6 o'clock meeting. What? That's close. That was just the other night. You know, for me, I think one of the things about going to work for a place like Disney, you know, there's so many Imagineers, for example, and animators that, you know, had to start in somewhere besides the studio, or outside of Imagineering. So, you know, I know that now we all cherish the time we spent as an hourly cast member working through school. I know for me in particular, that was a little bit of a challenge, because I felt like once I graduated, you know, I kind of felt like I was put into a little bit of an operational box. And it wasn't really until I started pursuing my graduate degree that, you know, kind of that management shift happened. So I'd say that, you know, there's certain companies that, you know, everyone thinks, oh, if I could just get my foot in the door, whether it's, you know, sweeping or, you know, whatever, I could kind of climb my way up the ladder. And I'd say that's truer of some companies than others. But unfortunately, there are kind of, you know, kind of paradigms and walls that and silos that happen. So there's been times that I know within the Walt Disney Company that those walls have been more permeable than others. So that can be a challenge.
Awesome. And this next question might be a little more difficult to answer for some of our panelists than others, but Sydney asks, what things or skills should an undergrad in college be focusing on now in order to get where you are today?
Foundation. That's for me.
Yeah.
An artist foundation, understanding the core art principles. If you want to be in animation and you want to be a part of it, technical or not, understanding the art, the fundamentals. It's like storytelling, right? There is a fundamental skill that applies to any type of storytelling. Same thing with any type of art: color, lighting, form, motion. Understand that stuff really deeply. Don't focus on the tools. Don't be a button pusher. Don't say, hey, I know how to use Photoshop and I know every single button and I know every single command and every single macro, but you can't make a good piece of art with it. Yeah. You know, the art skill is, at least for me in my career, that was the most important thing. That was the part that I struggled the most with.
I'd parrot that too, Rich. And I think along with the skills you mentioned, perspective and anatomy. You have got to have those things memorized. So I want an intern or a new hire to instinctually be able to understand those principles. So they're not constantly, there's nothing wrong with reference. And I'm all about getting yourself some good reference, whether it's for your perspective or for your anatomy. But for quick sketch, whether it's storyboarding or it's layout, I want to see that come out of your hand, out of your imagination, if I can. And if you're confident in that, it's going to send you. You'll be leagues ahead of everyone else. Because as Rich said, a lot of people are just turning into button pushers. Mm-hmm. And if you understand those principles and can generate that stuff out of your brain, which is how I learned it, you'll be ahead of everybody else.
Yep.
I actually have a budding artist in the home, and I'm not sure if she'll go more the art route or the design route, but she is definitely getting the technical fundamentals down. I'd hire her in a heartbeat, but what I'm really encouraging her is to go beyond that, really pursue that intellectual curiosity, to be just interested and curious about lots of things. Because I think that's something that's been true of every project we've ever taken on. I think that the stuff that really brings the special sauce, there's a lot of people with the technical competence, the artistic ability, whatever, to get the job done, but to bring that magic heart, that to distill that big idea, it just takes it just takes a innate curiosity. There's a passion, but you almost need to be able to not just be passionate about what you care about, but almost to fall in love with every new subject matter, to really want to get there, do the research, and just again fall in love with that unique character, setting, and plot.
Yeah, and I'll add one last thing here. And this might be hard to hear for students that are spending money and working hard to get their degree, but your degree is for you. Your portfolio is for your job if you're an artist. So just know that in my entire professional career, no one has ever asked me for my degree. Every single place I've worked has asked for my demo reel. It doesn't mean it's not important to get your degree, but just know that that's not what's going to get you your job, not as an artist, maybe as an engineer. But as an artist, It's your portfolio. It's your work that gets you your job. So make things, create things. If you build your own movie, make your own characters, draw, design, build a portfolio, a body of work, so that when you are going to get a job, you can show what you can actually do.
I literally just met and interviewed a veteran animator, Imagineer today. I never even once thought about asking where he went to school or GPA. Never even, until you said that, never even crossed my mind.
It doesn't, because their work is what matters. Who they are is what matters. So again, it doesn't minimize the value of the degree and what you're doing, but just know that that's not what's going to get you your job.
Yeah. And when I'm reviewing a portfolio, one of the chief things I look for is continuity of quality. If you have 5 pieces and these 4 are all about the same level and they look really good, and this 5th one, you're like, I'm going to throw that in just so it looks like I have my work. Don't. Leave it out. Just put the best stuff in. And I want to see not only a thread of continuity with the quality, I want to see a narrative. Tell me a story. Entertain me while I'm looking at your portfolio. One of our designers, we hired her because her work was competent. We liked her, but her name is Robin. And she created this little narrative of this robin bird on every page of her portfolio. And it was enchanting. And that's why she got hired. I love that piece in her work, and that she was representing herself and her sense of creativity, and it was great. And so, but tell a story with your portfolio if you can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And to change things up just a little bit, Naomi also asks an interesting question. Do you have any rituals that help you focus before you start working on a new project?
For me, I'm always terrified, and I just start doing stuff until things start to come out. I don't care. But 30 years is like, the best way to start is to start, even if you throw it all away. Yeah. For me, anyway.
I pick a film that's going to be related to the subject matter that I'm working in, and I just get excited to kind of delve into that, and then if you've never heard of it, there's an app on the App Store called the Brainstormer, and for artists and illustrators, it's a really great tool to warm up. A lot of times you'll just get that artist block where you're staring at a blank screen or a blank sketchbook. You're like, I really got to get started. But it looks like this. I popped it open. I can't show. I don't know if you can see this or not. Probably not.
Like glowing.
There you go. Is that better?
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Push this little button, and the dials turn. Come on, and it gives you what just came up was flight dying alien, and so it gives you something to draw.
That
And-
explains so much about your work, Johnny. You just revealed your whole special sauce right there.
But it's a great way to give yourself a little quick sketch exercise and get those juices flowing, and it helps me out a great deal. And I think there is a free version, so I would check that out. The Brainstormer.
Yeah, for me, there is something about getting outside of your normal day-to-day routine, context, environment. Obviously, if it's project related, Johnny and I have been to some pretty amazing spots around the world. Those kind of research reconnaissance trips where possible, again, more than worth their weight in gold, as a project executive or producer, anyone doing the budgeting for some of these projects, it just pays off in the authenticity and the inspiration that comes from that local flavors.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, folks. We'll end it with one last question for tonight. And that is, what are you most looking forward to as we emerge out of the current situation and pandemic that we're in today? Just to end it off on a light note, what are we looking forward to as we move
to
forward?
go see people? I even though I work from home and that's been my plan since I left Pixar, I also traveled and I'd go down and see these guys, and I miss people so much. So for me, that's what I'm looking forward to.
It's theme parking. I loved themed entertainment. I want to go see the Avengers campus. I want to go check out the all the fun stuff that's going on in Florida, all that stuff. So I can't wait to get back out there and check that stuff out.
Yeah, we literally have attractions, rides that we got out the door, and they've been sitting there gathering dust, and to be able to bring our kids, our families, to see their reactions going through some of these, I just can't wait. There's nothing like getting the eyeballs unglued from the screens and kind of viscerally involved with all five senses, and then to just look each other in the eye and with that shared experience smile, it's powerful, and people are hungry for it.
Yep.
It gives us a certain level of job security. I hope. We all hope.
Yeah, I definitely am just really excited to be in those 3D experiences again, whether it be theme parks or I know
At
like
the movies,
there's a lot of the movies or those there's like all those cool like pop-up art experiences like Meow Wolf and all those cool really cool art museums that I want to be able to explore and see, because there was a new one that opened in I think Las Vegas not that long ago that I want to go check out. So
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
we just proposed an immersive animation exhibit. That's what I was talking about. The definition of what we consider animation is it's a new day. To be able to step into these environments, it's just so cool.
Exactly, and in environments like that, you become like a part of the art piece, which is amazing in itself. So, thank you so much all for joining us today for our Titan Talks Animation Edition. It's been amazing learning about your careers and gaining some really knowledgeable advice on how to really get started in the industry. So thanks folks for joining us. If you have any questions or you want to learn more about our panelists, go ahead and check our description and our YouTube channel and follow ASI CSUF for more content like this. Thanks folks, and hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks guys.